Hi. Well, first of all, I'd like to say I'm very moved and inspired by um, the movie and the way it came about, um, and also the presentations here today. I was so humbled and so honored to be part of that movie. It's so important to have that way of getting the information out there about the community here in Shelburne. And it's with pride that I find myself in the presence of so many serious people working to just have what is and should be a simple right, clean water. Um, and you know, and I work with people who recognize the importance of this work, and that's the board of SEED. There's so many good people on that board, and it seems to be up to us to make sure that people in the Black community in Shelburne have that access to clean water. After the movie, um, I looked at the many changes that need to happen in our community, and I see these needs we have to face in order to move forward. And I believe that the key to finding a way to change and to help the community grow is with research. That's our next step, I think, is research. And the most important question to the community as a whole has to be how we create equality in this community of Shelburne. After environmental racism has caused so much problems, physically, mentally, health wise, I should say, we need to find ways to form firm commitments from policymakers, businesses, educators, and community organizations and government to work for partnerships to change the entrenched racism and the hidden discrimination, which put us in a situation where we had to speak up because of the deaths in our community because of cancer, the high rates of cancer in our community. We had to speak up. We had no choice. We could not let this. We can't let this go on. And the simple fact that nothing has been done to help the community in terms of clean water. We never had access to clean water. So we need to do things, I think, that identify and promote equality and initiatives that address all sectors of this community. And like, the water tests that we've been doing now since 2016 with partners like Rural Water Watch and in the Enrich Project and Nova Scotia Community College. These water tests have made a tremendous difference in our community because it's awakened something in the community that makes people realize that it's a necessity to test your water, because it seems that every water test we do, and we thank those people that financially supported us to do those water tests. At every water test we do, somebody has to deal with E. coli and other things in their water. And we need to ask ourselves and our partners how in our community do we achieve social inclusion, which seems to be missing since we've been in this community, and that's for generations. We seem to be forgotten in the south end of Shelburne, except for those now seat as partners with Nova Scotia Housing, thank God, who has come forward and helped with residents to ensure they have good wells, because many of the wells in the homes in the south end of Shelburne have been there for generations. And with so many of the men gone from the community, that regular thing of making sure the wells were cleaned and repaired if they need to, that had for some reason stopped. But now Nova Scotia Housing has stepped up, and they are helping us, helping seed with a partner of African Nova Scotian Affairs, and we are going to the community with the application that Nova Scotia Housing has for grants for wells, to modify that application so people are not feeling intimidated by that application and will fill it out. And it seems to be working, because people are getting wells. People are getting new wells with clean water going into their homes, because we don't have access to any town water in the South End. The most exciting thing for us and the most rewarding thing was the gift of clean water from Alan Page to the south end of Shelburne. Alan has offered to have a community well dug. So, environmentally, as we go through this process of changing, the environment changing, that the wells in the community were going dry. People had no water. They go sometimes weeks without water. And Alan has agreed to pay for that. It wasn't an easy chore to get that well, because we had many, many meetings with the town council of Shelburne, and it finally came to a good conclusion that they agreed that, to let us put the well where we wanted to put it in the south end. We need to make sure that people know what environmental racism is. Excuse me, because a lot of people in our community still are not really realizing, when we say environmental racism, what it is. That we need to find ways to educate about that particular issue. And that particular issue is what I'm saying, and I feel bad that I have to say this all the time, but is the reason that we are losing so many in our community to very rare cancers. It's like, it's things like multiple myeloma and autoimmune diseases and brain cancers and breathing problems. And I feel, even though we're not finding that there's leaching in our wells and in our water from that dump, but that dump was placed there in the late 40s and was there until the 90s. It had to go somewhere, and we had to be exposed in some way from some of the chemicals and stuff that was dumped on that dump. And thank God the movie actually shows how I feel anyway about that leaching into soil and into the water. All of us in this community have things that we need to do to make the community better. We have to all work together to ensure that our neighbors are living in proper housing. Our neighbors, our families are taken care of properly with clean water. We all need to do that. But sometimes it's hard when you live in a rural area, a rural community, because things happen. Organizations happen that take care of people in central areas, but little communities like Shelburne are forgotten. We don't have anybody in the community that we can identify with or that look like us in positions of authority. This is an issue I'm finding after the movie as well. Community members are telling me that these are things that we need to change within the community in order for the community to grow and get better. These are things that need to change. But we are working with people outside of the community, like Econo Justice, who also has secured funding and is working with Dalhousie University Labs. We're getting, of course, the virus has stopped the water testing for this particular period because we need to find out what kind of E. coli this is. So we need to get DNA tests done in our water. So Eco Justice, has secured funding to help us do that. We also have to thank Nova Scotia Community College, who has been working with us for a number of years, doing water tests and going into people's homes and showing them how to do a proper water test, where it has to go, and explaining the results to those water tests when they get them back, and what to do and how to stock the wells if they come back contaminated, and they do usually. I also have to thank public health, who now has somebody in the Shelburne area who didn't have somebody here. We didn't have a public health person for quite some time. But this person has actually been coming to meetings with SEED, Nova Scotia Housing, and African Nova Scotian Affairs. And we're hoping to work, of course, the virus stopped all that again, but we're hoping to work with Nova Scotia Housing to set up a housing coalition in the Shelburne area, and specifically in the South End and other parts of Shelburne as well, but to help with housing issues and environmentally. These are important things. I think that organizations like Rural Water Watch are some of the best things that could happen to rural communities like Shelburne, because these group of people have the knowledge and the know-how to help with simple things like testing your water is so important. We have to think about things like, I know that people don't like diversity programs, and a number of people are against those, but I think if that's what we have to do within the education and employment sector, this is something also that we have to look at. Systemic racism has repercussions in the African Nova Scotia community, and especially in the rural areas. That includes shorter lifespans for people, like health issues, and lesser income and wealth, limited access to quality education. We don't have all that stuff. Limited political participation. We don't have that stuff in rural areas in the Black community. And the thing of it is that I find that I've had many conversations after the movie, and for me, the movie has been an experience of growth, much growth. I've been disappointed by things. I've been disappointed by some comments that came from within my own community, the things that I didn't know, but you learn from them. But the worst that I think that comes from the awareness of things like environmental racism and racism itself is that we still have to keep providing proof for racism. And we still have to bear the backlash of more accusations and excuses of folks. It's there. It's been there. And we can't change that. I won't dwell anymore, but so many people, when they hear the term environmental racism, really do not understand the complex issues behind environmental racism and what comes from those issues. It's all encompassing. It affects our mental health, our physical health, our religious health, our economically, it affects us in every aspect of our life. But that's my little spiel. I again need to say that taking part in the movie was one of the most honorable things that I could do, I think, for my community. And to awaken an awareness of what's been happening in this community, in my community, and other communities across Nova Scotia when it comes to environmental racism.